All's not well with many of the January 6th prisoners pardoned by President Trump. Tim Rivers returns with a shocking and unsettling update on this episode of United Patriots Uprising with Gary Binford. I'm your host, Gary Binford. Thanks for joining us. This podcast is available at radioinfluence.com or wherever you get your favorite podcasts. The video version you can find at YouTube, Rumble, the God Family and Country Television Network, the Rose Unplugged Media Network, vachristian.org, the americafirstwarehouse.com, yournews.com, WeSeeYouMedia.com, and Conservative Television of America. Wherever you go to find it, please subscribe, leave a rating, and review. We'd love to hear from you what you think of the show. There's also an archive of the entire 4 years of this podcast that you can find by going to radioinfluence.com/category/United Patriots Uprising/. There you'll find guests such as Charlie Kirk, Tom Holman, Ben Carson, Kerry Lake, Pastor Alan Jackson, Kevin Sorbo, Peter Navarro, Monica Crowley, Carol Swain, Ted Nugent, Judge Janine Pirro, Stacey Washington, Nick Searcy, Donna Fiducia and Don Newen, and Clara Lopez. That's at radioinfluence.com/category/United Patriots Uprising/ every show that I've done either on the TV, video, or audio, you will find there. And continuing to highlight one of the websites that carries this podcast, today, we're going to look at vachristian.org. The Virginia Christian Alliance exists to glorify God by standing as a bold voice for truth in a culture rapidly drifting from biblical values. Based in Richmond, Virginia, VCA equips Christians across the Commonwealth and beyond to stand firm on life, family, faith, and freedom issues. VCA website content manager Jeff Baird, a retired professional turned writer and watchman, helps lead and manage VCA's digital outreach, which seeks to glorify Christ through faithful advocacy for biblical truths and restoring America's moral foundation. And Jeff, I love and appreciate what you do because you really, really do a great job of not only laying out the podcast, but also giving the people all the high points and letting them know what it's about in written form so they can also see it and hear it. So thank you for what you do. And once again, it's vachristian.org. The name associated with my guest says it all. Furious Tim. Not upset Tim, nor angry Tim, not sad Tim, nor mad Tim. Furious Tim. And after you hear what this patriot with a cause has to say about the tragedy that continues for many of the January 6th prisoners pardoned by President Trump, I do believe you'll be furious too. Ready to find out what the fuss is all about? Well, let's get into it. My guest is a retired IT engineer, Fortune 100 executive and writer, who following the 2020 election dove into how elections in his home state of Florida had been conducted. He soon began writing letters to support of the January 6th prisoners who had been arrested for protesting that election, documenting their stories and their messages to supporters as well as our nation. He continues to provide a voice to the silence through numerous social media platforms that he'll talk about, and he speaks out for equal justice and liberty in America. A guest prior to President Trump pardoning many of the J6ers, I welcome back to the show the patriot affectionately known as Furious Tim, Tim Rivers. How are you, Tim?
Oh, great, Gary. Thank you for having me back. It's always fun.
I always would want you on because this just has my head exploding. So is it fair to say, yeah, it's when you know what's going on and you don't see the progress, it's heartbreaking. But eventually, it's all going to come out in the wash. God will not be mocked. I'm confident that this is going to eventually hit America, and boy, it'll change our nation forever. So, my first question: is it fair to say that as furious as you were while the J6ers were incarcerated, you're even more furious now? As the saying goes, all's well that ends well, sadly doesn't apply here.
It doesn't, and I think that's because it hasn't ended. I'm gonna put the happy face on it. Okay, it hasn't ended yet, so it may end well. I think there's still desire and hope for this to be a different type of ending for well over 1,700 people, and their families, and their children, and their businesses, and their communities, and their neighbors. I mean, this was a far-reaching event that literally touched tens of thousands of Americans. In many ways, none of them good. And we documented that. We thought this was a 1776 moment for our country. We've documented everything that happened to these people in these books. The third book, which is it's actually at the publisher's hands now, called The Road to Freedom, takes you right up to January 20th. My last letter in that book is January 20th, 2025. And they are moments away from liberation. This is an amazing set of facts. And I think this is an important set of facts that needs to be preserved, because people are under the impression that because the Pardon Project was a success, which took literally dozens and dozens of leadership in J6 working for almost a year to create this blueprint for President Trump and present it in a form that made pardons almost a snap of the fingers for him. It's not over for these people. I stood outside Coleman. Take a look at the flag behind me. This is the J6 POW flag I've used as my on my podcast backdrop for almost 4 years. I took it with me to Coleman Prison to liberate the 11 men who were held there. And when they came out the gates and out of the doors of the three different, there was a road camp, a medium, a high, and a low facility all on this campus. And we pulled people out of all of them. Had 11 people lined up taking their pictures together, and they all signed this flag that stands behind me. That's their signatures on it. That was their salute to freedom that night. But that was actually their crash landing into liberty. And I do mean crash landing.
Please explain, because this is one of the sad things, because a lot of people think, hey, they're pardoned, the worst is over and they're back to enjoying life. But nothing could be further from the truth for many of them.
No, and for us as well, the advocacy groups, we've seen, the rapid departure of donors, while we have an even greater demand to help these people and their families get reconstituted, if nothing else, simply to survive, not lose their homes, and not move backwards. Okay, so I'm going to just give you the analogy. Everybody who was a teenager who's listening, maybe some of you haven't got there yet. This is a great podcast to listen to if you're just coming up. But if you were a teenager, remember when you left home? Remember when maybe your aunt or your uncle loaned you your money for your first car, or your parents helped you get that apartment by co-signing, or your first loan to go to college? Well, imagine you're 45 or 50 or even 65, and that's where you are. You've got nothing. You have no credit. You have a sullied background. You don't have a job. You may not have a home. Many have no families anymore, and you get to start all over again, with a criminal record in some cases that states are being very slow to erase. And that is the predicament that J6ers who are released, all 259, I believe was my count. We got 245 on January 21, liberated into our arms. And the remainder we fought, and we still have 3 behind bars being held on other charges that the states have trumped up that are related to J6, so they should have been dismissed. And we have 12 people waiting on real pardons who were simply commuted. And that's the circumstance these people find themselves in. Heroic patriots, many of them. I want to remind everybody, there's like only 35 or 45 people that received charges that had to do with violence inside or at the Capitol. And then compare that to like 1,700 people who were indicted and over 1,500 who were prosecuted, and well over 400 to 500 who were placed in prison. And you get the scope of this disaster against American patriots and conservatives. I will admit that many of them all fall into this, the right side of politics, the side that is more constitutionally minded, more cognizant that we are a republic and not a democracy. And so that's where they find themselves now. And here we are, the advocacy groups who've been going, wow, we're doing so good. We got you $100 in commissary. And I got a guy's going, I'm going to lose my home if I don't come up with $1,700. And I can't get a job. Is there any way you can help me feed my family? And I don't have a car. I found a job, but I can't get to work because I don't have a vehicle. Can you help me get a car? These are needs that go well beyond the individual 1-2 donor. Give me $20 and God bless you for your help. We now need massive donors. We need grants, and we need restitution from the government for what's been done to these people. And that's where we stand, and it is not over.
Right. Now, three things that I want you to address now that they're out, and then we'll get into the government and why this is still going on. Number one, there's a lot of people in the community, because they haven't seen some of the footage that we've seen yet, that think these people were pardoned, but they were guilty. That would also include a lot of police officers, because for whatever the reason, there were a couple policemen who were dead. Then the third thing is these people are coming back almost in a way like people that came back from the Vietnam War. You know, they're not feeling the love of their communities and stuff. And unfortunately, I've heard some have committed suicide. Some of their families have had a lot of problems. Their wives have left them. This is just horrible.
Yeah, and it was targeted. Let's be very clear. This was targeted against certain individuals in the initial prosecutions with these ridiculous sets of charges that were literally unprovable, and yet carried the weight of 40 to 50 to 60 years in prison, and used those as leverages to force plea deals for lesser charges that then were over sentenced and sent to prison anyway. That was the reality of these prosecutions, okay? Let's just get that right out of the way. If you have not seen the evidence, okay, I can make it real easy for you. It's so easy. You can do it a couple of different ways. The easiest way is go to stophate.com, go to the documentaries, sit down and watch them, please. Don't listen to the narratives. I don't care. Put on the headphones. Don't listen to anything. Watch them. Use your eyes and your cognitive functions as a human being and tell me what you see in these documentaries that we produce. Then I'd like you to go to open.ink, open.ink/J6, and watch J6, the true timeline, where we put the puzzle together with you. All these bits and pieces of the documentary are reassembled in a running timeline where President Trump's talking and you're seeing what's happening at the Capitol in the same time box. And we take you through the entire event. Tell me what you see. Who started the riot? Watch Pardon Us. Justice for All, our latest documentary. That's available on the web, again, at Stop Hate, open.ink/J6. Tell you what happened that made these pardons so critical and how we made them, why they were necessary, because none of these people were really given due process. I don't care what you think they did. None of them received a fair trial or due process in the District of Columbia, and many of them were unfairly over-sentenced. And so,
Wait a minute. I have to stop you.
okay,
Wait a minute, Tim. Look at how the left is talking about giving the illegal alien gangbangers and gang members due process. Are you saying they didn't want due process for American patriots?
I think people find that hard to believe. In fact, I'm going to say that the cognitive dissonance is what made the left so powerful in the last 2 decades. Let's just go back to some of the origins. In the last 2 decades, slowly, the power of the left to influence the media, to change the reality landscape of what people saw and ingested every day, allowed them to be very powerful. And they still are powerful. I would caution people, if you're not thinking about primarying some of these folks in the 2026 election, you are still letting the wolf at the door and leaving it unlocked, because these people have not gone away. Their radical beliefs and views have not changed. They're more, actually, now they crow about the lack of due process and the violations of what they think are constitutional protections that they so rampantly defecated on for 2 decades. And yet you're supposed to see this hypocrisy as valid outrage. I'm sorry, the left has lost their high ground. In fact, they lost their high ground a long time ago, but a 23% approval rating for the Democratic Party says it all.
Yeah. Tim, of the J6 Select Committee, you say Hey, investigate them, indict them, impeach them, incarcerate them.
Thank
Why,
you.
Tim? I say that facetiously,
No, it's
but
not facetious. And
I
there,
know.
thank you. You watch what Ed Martin does.
Right.
Please be very careful about watching what Ed Martin does,
Now,
because
please
these
tell
people,
people who Ed Martin is and why he is about to become very important in this process. And they
yeah,
should have left
and
him alone.
they should have left him alone. He was nominated to be the Attorney General for DC. Now, I want everybody to try and understand what that means. I'm not just talking about prosecution of gangbangers on the street or people urinating in Liberty Park. I'm talking about everything that happens within the District of Columbia under the envelope of federal prosecution. That would include obstruction of justice. That would include perjury. That would include basically lying, within a select committee, or altering or fabricating evidence. What do we call that? Darn, 1512C. That's the one. 20 years in prison. When Ed Martin was basically stymied, when the left saw that he was going to take over the attorney generalship at DC, there was a rush for depends in the District of Columbia around the congressional district. Everybody needed to visit Walgreens really quickly, because this man, they knew exactly what he was capable of doing in uncovering and prosecuting what had happened during probably the last 6 to 8 years. There has been enough infamy and corruption to put people in prison for life. And the left just completely, whatever happens, burn the building down. We must stop this, right? And they did. Donald Trump definitely said, okay, we'll put Janine Perot in there. You're going to like her a lot. She's an old Fox News hand, loves MAGA. She'll do a good job. Oh, what are we going to do with Ed? Gee, let's make him the pardon AG. Let's make him the attorney general in charge of pardons. And what is Ed going to do the first thing he takes office? He's going to investigate the auto pen pardons for the January 6th
Biden.
committee. And he's going to
Biden had no
remove
idea
those
who he was
armor
pardoning,
underwear.
even if it was Biden.
He's going to take away those armor underwear, and then we're going to have some. I hope we have some true justice. I will tell you
Yeah.
that the January 6th community as a whole, including the advocacy groups, are impatient to see action, to see indictments, to see arrests for what we know are constitutional violations of an epic order, that probably haven't been seen since pre or post Civil War era. And I
So
think
are you
that's
saying he's going to look into what really happened, why those people, the J6ers, were even in prison for the first place and need to be pardoned, as well as will he be looking into everybody that Biden pardoned on the way out the door?
yes. And I think here's the key, guys. Listen up to this, because this is really important. Some of the things that have happened in the past 10 to 20 years have been tactical responses. Tactical responses. In other words, something happened, I respond to it in a way that might have some planning, might have some preparation behind it, but basically it's a response. It's not an initiation. This administration has gone strategic. Strategic means I think ahead and I execute what I planned. I'm not responding, I'm creating the response. And Ed Martin, when he was about to become the AG for DC, we, the January 6th community, won a very important SCOTUS case with Ryan Zink that said you must release all of the evidence, all of the video, all of the documents if you're going to prosecute anybody. And Ed Martin stepped up and said, whoa, 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 I'm filing a motion not to do that. Listen, most of us were like, okay, get the torch and the tar, because we're going to go find Ed. But now I see the strategy. Why? Because that could have been corrupted as evidence to be used in coming trials against those whose pardons will be stripped from them for their infamy actions during the last administration. And there is the strategy. That's what I think anyway. Tea leaves.
Right. Now, I know you get phone calls, and I know I've had several people on this show who have footage, and you have footage, and Stop the Hate is a great website to see what went on. I saw a lot when I was in the Rock the Red convention down in Greenville, South Carolina in 2022. And we know there's a lot out there. Tucker Carlson had it. Mike Johnson has a lot of it. And people still ask me to this day, well, I thought it was going to be out. Why hasn't the American people seen this yet? And your answer is?
I think, well, obviously we've been censored. For instance, I'm going to just say J6, A True Timeline, when it went out, was getting millions of hits. And Facebook and X and everybody instantly dialed us back. So we disappeared from all the topics. The censorship is still alive. The algorithms still exist. They have, in my opinion, they may have been dialed back a bit, but they still are there. And we have been severely censored. So how did we do that? Okay, fine. You shut us off. We took the same approach that I took with the books. I couldn't get a publisher to touch these books. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, please talk about the books too. Tell the people about the books and your involvement. You can start. Let's go right here since you went down this way. Your involvement with the all your organizations and Marie and everything that you put together to try and help these people out.
Started with one letter, just one silly letter, 2-page letter, not even a real emotional letter, just, hi, so sorry you're in there. I'm a supporter. I'm sorry these are things that happen. How can I help? Blah, 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 blah. I got back this 4-page documentary from a January 6th prisoner who was being held pre-trial. In other words, had not received a trial, not even received a trial date, had been in prison almost 6 months. Well, why was he special? Well, because he was a thrice decorated Green Beret. And before that, he'd been a Ranger. And he'd served both 2 careers in the military, retired out honorably, then went to work for the agency we shall not name, doing private security work for the government and the State Department in places that you and I don't want to ever go to: Horn of Africa, Somalia, Syria. And the list is long. You probably recognize all of them. Think of a place we had a war in the last 20 years. That's where this gentleman was. A father, never been arrested, Christian, has 2 beautiful teenage children at the time, married, successful career, hold a top secret clearance just like I had. Really just an amazing American hero. Remember, 3 Bronze Stars for action. Was it Fallujah, all these other places you've read about? He's sitting in prison. And that letter that came back to just destroyed me, because he described what he recognized that day as actors within the crowd that had initiated the violence, that had led people into the areas that conflict had begun in. And he described how they were innocent people were being attacked, and people like him had risen to their defense. Yes. And were attacked in exchange and then jailed for violent actions that were truly defensive. And so this letter kind of just turned me, it infuriated me, right? That's
where Furious Tim comes from.
And I started posting, I started writing more letters and posting the letters out on Telegram. And I met these people on Telegram, one of who was Marie Goodwin, who was the mother of a J6er. And she and I decided we needed our own channel. We started J6 Patriot News, initially on Telegram, now on the web at j6patriotnews.com. Everywhere. Just look anywhere. Go J6 Patriot News. You'll find us. We're on every social media platform out there. We tracked these people, started posting what was happening to them, where you could find them, how you could support them, what their gives and goes were, reporting on the abuses of the judges and everything. You're going to find exposés on all the judges on our main site. And we became a central point for communications. And as I started posting these letters, other people started sending me the letters they were getting. And all of these letters were prompted through an organization called the Patriot Mail Project, patriotmailproject.com. They were tracking these prisoners along with us and posting their addresses where you could write to them. Then we would take that and create a page that had their gives and goes, how to write to them, what they needed. And basically we became the support structure for J6 prisoners across America. After those letters had begun to avalanche into me, I decided they needed their own home, and I created another channel called the American Gulag Chronicles. And I started posting these letters by the dozens every week, poignant, disruptive to your consciousness as a patriot and an American, disgusting in how you were seeing your government behave towards those who were acting constitutionally, and frightening because the message was, you're next. Watch what happens and do nothing. You're next. And so we were not going to do nothing. I took that as another one of my mottos: don't do nothing. I stole it from another Green Beret improperly in prison called Jeremy Brown, who wasn't even there that day doing those things. And so there's a whole community of veterans. Think about this. 7% of the American population is a veteran, retired or active. 27% of the first 1,000 people arrested for January 6th were veterans, oath keepers, proud boys, people who were basically heroes of the American public. Many of them twice, 3 times, 4 times decorated. And these were the people that the Biden administration targeted. And that's how the books needed to be written, because the letters were not going to survive the censorship. And so I put them into 3 books. The 3rd book is at the publisher now.
And the name of the books are the J6 Chronicles, right?
They're called the American Gulag Chronicles.
Oh, Chronicles,
it's a
okay.
little nod to Alexander Solzhenitsyn, who warned us that this could happen in America if we did nothing.
Right.
And so Letters from Prison, book 1, covers a year, mostly in the DC Gulag. It is horrific. I'm sorry. It's just there. Please, some discretion in young children exposure is required, because what they did to these people is horrific on the aim of torture, really.
And these people sent these letters directly. This is in their own words.
Yes, this is their letters replying to their supporters who wrote to them. Yeah. And I have a file drawer behind me underneath this flag that's full of them, because I started writing and then posting, and I became almost family members with these individuals, to the point where my wife and I supported no less than 3 to 4 individuals for the entire 4-year period, fed them, cared for their families, did whatever we could afford to do, as well as hundreds of thousands of other Americans and worldly people from across the country wrote to these people and then sent us their letters. And that's what you find in these books. Not only their letters, but introductions to the periods and the things that were happening around them. In The Art of Confinement, the 2nd book, you begin to see people in their 3rd year of confinement have developed this resistance, this understanding that they are pawns in a bigger game, and that their requirement is to stand fast and not surrender, and wait for justice to come, and wait for the American people to awaken to that injustice. And that's exactly what happened. In this last book, The Road to Freedom, I show you not only their last year of confinement, where misery and dejection turns to hope, and then finally liberation, the last letter being the 20th of January, 2025. But I also show you how it was done. All the organizations like mine and like Condemned USA, Stop Hate, J6 Action Pack, the Pardon Program, the Freedom Ambassador, where we picked up every prisoner. We had somebody waiting outside of every prison through the night. So when these men and women were released, there was somebody there to meet them and take them to safety. These are amazing stories of patriots in action, of that 1776 spirit that I think is reawakened in America. And I urge everybody, they are records of history. That's why I call them a chronicle. And that's why I put them, this will be the final book in the Chronicles that covers this period of time where we almost lost our republic. And it comes directly from the hands of the men and women who experienced the most damage from it. And my hope, all those books go to my nonprofit. My nonprofit, that money goes straight back to January 6ers. Buy these books and you are becoming part of the Gulag army of support. Lettersfromprison.us, lettersfromprison.us. 3rd book is available for pre-order. I give you $10 off as you get book 1 and 2 as a bundle. Use my promo code Tamara. I'll give you free shipping. TAMARA for the Tamara Scott Show, which I do every Friday on WBWTV.com. Wow, how's that for a pitch?
Hey, that's great. Hey, so people need to understand and get involved. Now, I'm glad to hear you've got some truth-revealing events coming up, and you say you really believe this is going to change, because a lot of us had expected the government, Congress, Mike Johnson has all the footage. It's like nothing seems to be coming out. Greg Kelly puts out bits and pieces now and then, but it just seemed to me if people ever saw what we saw, it would be over.
It does seem that way. It seemed, well, again, I'm going to say right out that I've shown some people, the truth and still had them adamantly. And this is where that cognitive dissonance comes in, right? You don't want to believe your government would do this. You don't want to believe this could happen in America. You don't want to believe your tax dollars funded this. You don't want to admit it because the guilt will be overwhelming unless you do something about it. And that's why I say don't do nothing. It's bad. You're going to cry when you read these books. I'm sorry, you will. If you don't, please write me. I'm going to send you a free copy. Listen, there's just no way. These are tragedies of American history, of patriots that are literally sacrificing for country and God. You're going to hear stories of faith. You're going to see amazing things. But to get back to your question, we are waiting and demanding that Congress do a real January 6th committee, a real investigation. Call the real people. Let these men and women who served time, who were there that day, testify in Congress. I don't want to hear some third party rookie tell me what he thinks somebody else saw he heard. How about asking the person who was there that day, since we're tired of waiting for Congress, the J6 activist community is going to do our own panel hearings. We're going to invite these men and women who have suffered so greatly to come before a panel to swear on a Bible or a holy book of their choosing before God that they're testifying truthfully, because that's what you would do if you were standing in a Senate chamber. That's what you would do if you were truly dedicating your heart and your honor to speaking truth. We will collect those testimonies and produce a mini series where these people may testify directly to the American public. Since Congress won't do the work, we, the people, by the way, that's our job to begin with. We simply hired these idiots to do the work. If they're not doing the work, it's still our job. It's still we, the people, not them, the Congress. Okay? And so if we can't get Congress to do the work, if we couldn't get Congress to get behind Trump, if we couldn't get all these things to happen, it's we, the people, that made these things happen. We, the people, who brought these things to light. We, the people, who created the Pardon Project. We, the people, who rescued these men. And we, the people, who need to restore their lives.
I hear you, Tim. Now, is this in progress now? Do you have dates set up for how you're going to go about this, or this is just in the formative stage?
The first witnesses, the panel is formed. The first witnesses are notifying. What we're trying to do is to find imagine that you have 6 activists who are also on-air personalities who have full-time jobs, just like you and I, Gary, and you have 10 witnesses who are also struggling to get their lives back together, who live all over the country, and you got to get them all synced up together so that you can take testimonies and have everybody on screen. It's a pretty big undertaking. We have some amazing documentary filmmakers that are basically creating that framework, and we will probably begin testimony before the end of this month. It will run in 6 panels, probably through the fall, and we will be done before the 2026 primaries begin. Okay? Take this one to the bank, folks. We're going to open the kimono and show you everything. And then, Gary, here's a chance for the American public to get involved with this process. There needs to exist an open forum base of all the J6 testimony, all of the interviews, all of the video documentation, all of the documents, all of the court records, all of the judge exposés, everything in the public view where they can crowdsource and investigate for themselves. And listen, we've got requests from big investigative companies that would like to delve deeper. Please let us see your evidence. Well, it's not going to happen that way. We're not going to let gatekeepers do it anymore. It's time for the American public to see it. So I'm announcing the J6 Advocacy Association Archive Project. This is an archive project to create a central database where everyone will place this data in all our different organizations, including crowdsourcing and places that from people who were there that day and what the people saw. And it'll all be available to the American public, and hopefully in a database searchable format with AI assist. And so stand by for that. We'll let you see it yourself. First, we'll take the testimony and give it to you and give it to Congress. Then we'll let you make your own decisions.
Tim, this is a godsend. And I assure you, my listening audience, and Tim, when America sees this, the country will be changed forever, because people really have no idea the lengths and the depth that evil people went to try and overthrow our constitutional republic. And this is just horrible, but the truth will come out, and America will never be the same when the American public realizes how duped we were and what even still goes on to this day. So I thank you, Tim, for what you do and who you are. Thanks for coming back and giving us an update. Please tell people, if they want to reach you, how they can contact you and get your publications and everything else.
You can find me pretty much everywhere at Furious Tim on X and Meta. And if you look at our Rumble page is WTR55. There's over 100 interviews with J6ers out there, and our Freedom Friday series. But I would tell you, our new endeavor, David Sumrall, myself, and Tamara Lee of On Spot Politics, we have formed the Unredacted Media Corporation to basically rip this black writing off of the truth for the American public. Visit us at unredacted.media. We have J6 commentators and speakers available for you. And our 1A Film Festival links are there for you to see all these amazing documentaries. Get educated, then don't do nothing.
Tim, thank you very much. You definitely have the support of this show. I'm just one guy, one voice crying out in the wilderness, but every little voice helps. And American people have to get behind this because they really don't understand what happened. And I agree with you, because when I try and tell people, some people that are really in tune, they get it. But a lot of people said, no, they couldn't have done that. They wouldn't have done it. Not in our America, but yeah, they did. And we can't let them get away with it. So, Tim, thanks for coming on, and God bless you and your family.
Thank you very much. Don't do nothing, folks. We'll see you later.
There you have it, Mr. Tim Rivers. I want to thank Tim Rivers for coming back on the show and letting us know what's going on with the January 6th prisoners who were pardoned by President Trump, who shouldn't have been prisoners at all. This is an American tragedy, people, and I hope it's coming to an end. And if the government's not going to take care of it, like if the Congress isn't going to put out the video it has had for quite a while, I guess we the people are going to have to do it. And I'm thankful for people like Tim and the people that work with him who have decided to take this bull by the horns and get the video out to the American people so everybody can see what really happened, why it happened, who was behind it. And I assure you, America will never be the same. This country will change, and for the better. So thank you, Tim, for who you are and what you do, and keep up the great fight. Podcast is available at radioinfluence.com, wherever you get your favorite podcasts. If you want the video version, go to YouTube, Rumble, the God Family and Country Television Network, the Rose Unplugged Media Network, vachristian.org, the AmericaFirstWarehouse.com, yournews.com, WeSeeYouMedia.com, and the Conservative Television of America. Well, that's it for now, everyone. And this, to me, was a show that I hope you not only watch, but share with people in your sphere of influence, because this is oh so important. Not for my show, but for the American people to know what is going on so they can get involved when they have an opportunity to help reverse this tragedy. So once again, I'm your host, Gary Binford, saying God bless you, God bless your families, God bless America, and thanks for joining.